Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Who is Who in America on Alhikmat TV 24/7 online. Today we are very fortunate to have with us on today's program Mrs. Anita Mainbach. Did I get that correct, Anita?
Very good. Mainbach.
Mainbach. Good.
Close enough.
Good. So welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you with us on today's program. And for our viewers out there, Anita has a very interesting background, a very successful background. Presently, she is the project developer with Building Bridges. She is an author. She has received many awards. Oh, very interesting background, a lot of achievements. So stay tuned as we talk to Anita Mainbach about her career, her background, her profession, and her present activities with building bridges among children of different cultures, different religious background, etc., etc., etc. So, Anita, welcome to the show. I'm going to stay away from having to pronounce the Mainbach,
Please.
in case I mess up with the pronunciation.
That's fine. And thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be here.
It's really a pleasure. I know that you got a very, very busy schedule with all your achievements in life. But before we get to building bridges with children of different cultures and different faiths, etc. Tell us a little bit about yourself, because I'm sure our viewers worldwide would like to know who is Anita, what Anita does, what she did, how she achieved all these achievements. I know you got a doctorate from the University of Miami School of Education and Human Development. You got a master's degree, in education. You major in education with gifted education. Again, all the 9 yards about education. You have 20 years of experience, and you have been working with Miami-Dade County Public School System for over 20 years in a wide variety of areas and different projects and programs. So tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe where you're from. You're originally from Miami, and how you achieve all these achievements.
Okay, well, thank you. Actually, I was born in New York City, and my family moved to Miami when I was 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But you talk about me teaching for so long. Actually, my career in education started when I was about 5 or 6 years old in the basement of my house in New York City.
Wow.
I used to have a blackboard in the basement, and I had these dolls, and I would invite the neighborhood children to come over, and I would tell a story using my dolls, and then I do things with the chalkboard also. So my dream in life actually always was to be a teacher.
Okay.
And I had two dreams. My first was to become a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one is I always wanted to write a children's book. So my first dream came true. I graduated from the University of Florida, and I started teaching first in Atlanta. And then I came to Miami from Atlanta. Having gone to Atlanta for 4 years to kind of have a different area to be in other than Miami, and then moved back to Miami. And so I taught for Dade County schools for, like you said, over 20 years, and taught, and I was an educational consultant for the county and had a lot of different jobs, speaking engagements, about education. And my other dream was to write a children's book. And that came true 2 years ago. A book my son and I wrote 20 years ago was published called What Luck. So both of those dreams came true. And in the interim, other than teaching at the University of Miami, at Dade County Schools, I then went for 14 years and taught at UM. And I taught children's literature, language arts, and classroom management there. So basically, those are the main things. And I've written, as you said, I've written many books for educators, many of them having to do with language arts and bringing books into the classroom for children and integrating it. And I did 2 books on the Holocaust. My family is very connected with the Holocaust, and my husband was born in a DP camp. His family were Holocaust survivors. And basically, these books, though, are for teachers and educators to use to teach the lessons of the Holocaust, about standing up for one another, about making, things are happening to your neighbors, your friends, whatever. You stand up for any human being. You stand up for right. And so that's basically what I have done over the years.
Tell us a little bit about your show on Channel 10, that famous Kids Beat magazine.
Kids Beat magazine.
Tell us about that, how it came about, how you got in that program, what you actually did. I mean, you are a specialist when it comes to kids and education, plus you have that 14 years, is it 14 years, professor at
University of Miami.
University of Miami. That's phenomenal. Listen, to be deep in education as you are, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. And we're really, really, really fortunate to have someone like you with us on the show today. So tell us about this magazine and Kids Beat magazine on Channel 10.
You know how life happens, that somehow you meet people you never expected to meet.
Yeah.
And connections just form. Like you, meeting you.
Oh, thank you.
They think they have, in Yiddish, I think it's Yiddish or it's Hebrew, it's beshert. It was meant to be. And some things are just meant to be. And I had a second cousin who was one of her closest friends, who was a producer with Channel 10 in Miami.
Yes.
And we had the opportunity to meet. And she was telling me about this new program that she was going to be doing. And it was called Kids Beat Magazine. It was like a magazine program that they had back in the days, small vignettes on different stories. And she asked me to be the associate producer. So my first thing is I go into the studio there, and I got to meet one of the heads of Channel 10. And I don't tell this story much, but you're a great listener. He said, we have music for an opening song. And he played it for us, and I sat there and I wrote the lyrics for their song. And it just came. It was like crazy. And anyway, so my main job there was to come up with ideas for scripts. And they had a pool of stories and programs that had already been done in different places. So going through those and picking out the ones we thought would be most appropriate. And I got to interview, we had a host and a hostess. They were in their teenagers,
right,
who were the main people on the program, introducing each of the different vignettes, and I got to write the vignettes. So basically, that's what I did for the show. And it was a thrill to do it, actually.
Wow, that would have been a lot of fun, right?
It was, and we did a couple of local ones too. The one I remember the most, we did at the Humane Society, because I wanted children to know that there's so many animals that need homes, and they could also go there and help take care of the animals, which is a wonderful thing to do. And my son was a young boy at that time, and he got to be in the program. So,
isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Wow. Yeah, because, when it comes to Kids Beat magazine and kids show on television, kids really are glued to television when it comes to kids show. I mean, as much as social media is out there and a lot of kids are with their phones and iPads and, yet when it comes to these kids shows on television, they are always on it, you know what I mean? So I could imagine you were that special idol in those days on this program, right?
It's important for them to have shows where they can learn and take the knowledge that they get, to engage them and inspire them. That's what we hope to do.
So tell us a little bit about some of those different activities that you were involved with when you worked with Miami-Dade County Public School System.
different
Some of the
activities.
things I know, you're a teacher, you were educational consultant, you were curriculum writer. Tell us a little bit about your experience, what it was
Oh,
like. I mean, that's going back in the years, but what you would share with us on this show would definitely motivate other teachers. You see the point I'm getting at? You
yeah.
will you will
Okay.
motivate other
So,
teachers, other
okay.
viewers worldwide who are in education and teaching. They would want to be another Anita.
I
How you
know.
attained all these things. Tell us.
I'm a little bit of an overachiever. I hate that word because you can't overachieve. You do what you can do.
Yeah.
I told you I always wanted to be a teacher. And it's funny, over the years, my husband would say, "Oh, why don't you go into law?" I said, because I love teaching. Then a few weeks later, he'd say, "Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that?" I go, I love what I do.
Mm-hmm.
If you love what you do, first of all, and as a teacher, there's so many things to love about it. You never work a day in your life, first of all. It was a joy when I think back, because I'm up there now in years over my life. I have always loved what I do. Teaching is not the easiest job in the world.
It is
But
definitely not. Yeah.
it's not. But I can't think, for me, I could never have gone into medicine. That was not for me. I was a candy striper, working. I used to do volunteer work at a hospital. And you go in and you fill up the water pitchers. And the first day on the job, I went in and filled up the water pitcher, and the woman was crying. She was in pain. And I walked out, sat down, cried. And they put me into making milkshakes at the hospital. So I wasn't meant for medicine, but I needed to do something. If you're the type of person that cares about others, teaching is the most fulfilling, rewarding job, because you start with young children. And if they can remember something that you've taught them, something that inspired them to do good in the world, that's what we're here for.
Yes.
And what's the best way to do it than to be a teacher? I wish the world would recognize, though, how important education is, because I would love to see more and more people want to go into education as to some of the more rigorous sciences, because we need them in the classroom teaching our kids also.
You are so right, Anita, because in the Islamic teachings we have a saying, "Al ilmun nurun," which means that knowledge is light. Knowledge is light. And when you teach people, you enlighten them, you brighten their life, and you give them the light of life so they can see a bright future because they're educated. It's all about light and guidance.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that image. It's beautiful.
It is so nice. You brighten their life with light, and they can see, there is a famous saying that when a person has wealth, the person got to guard and protect their wealth, that person. But when you have knowledge, your knowledge guards you.
And that's what's important. There's so many,
So,
so that's beautiful.
so you have been gifted with a very special thing from God and the light of the world. Unfortunately, today, nowadays, in fact, a lot of people are just about achievement of materialistic things in the world without being educated. Nobody has a problem with attaining materialistic things in the world, but when you're not educated, it's a miserable life. It's a miserable life. You can become so miserable by not understanding people, not understanding cultures, not understanding life, and not understanding the world, because you may have the world in your hands, but you may not understand the world.
You're absolutely right. I get very frustrated sometimes with education and the way it's being delivered.
Yes.
I'll tell you this. I ran for the school board for Miami-Dade County.
Uh-huh.
And there were 11 of us running, and one of them had political background. Two of them had political backgrounds. And I remember going to the dean at UM and saying, I'm running for school board. Can you give me some suggestions? And he said to me, "How much money do you have?" And I told him. He says, "You'll never win." And then I went to the dean. I shouldn't tell you this, but that was the same question. And the same response. And so, people need to realize that we need to put people into positions of leadership, school boards, where they have the knowledge to help make it better. And I'm telling you this because the teachers out there, you said a lot of them will be listening to this. Yes, they have basic curriculums that they want you to use, but you can enhance those. You can make them meaningful. You don't need to just use a textbook. Use great literature. Use life stories and history to bring those things together, to teach what's really important in life within the context of the past and knowledge of what we need for the future. And I think that's what gets a lot of teachers today. I know I talk to a lot of my former students who are so frustrated. They want to know what page you're on and why aren't you on a certain page with your students? Well, not every student is ready for that page. And so teachers out there, do what you know is right for your students. You'll teach it all, but give yourself the power to teach and reach them in the way that you know is meaningful and will inspire them. So
you are so right. You are so right, Anita. And a lot of people just teach for the salary. It's not about educating children and educating others, not just children, but others. Anyhow, we have already been talking for approximately 15 minutes. Do you see how time goes? Time goes. I know we got to get to your project of building bridges among children of different backgrounds. But when we come back after the short break, we want to talk a little bit about some of those awards that you have received. I saw that you have received a lot of awards, and we also got to talk about this Building Bridges project that you are on. But we need to know some of the awards, and I would like you to share that with our viewers so they can be motivated to receive some of the similar awards you have received. But they got to do the good work that you have done. They got to do the good work that you have done.
The awards are nice, but honestly, it's doing what we do. That's the award. Yes. When those kids come up to you and give you that hug and say thank you, that's the award. That's the award.
You are so right. So to our viewers out there, we will return after the short break and continue this conversation with Anita, a person with a very interesting background. For those of you who have just tuned in, she's a specialist in education, many years of experience with Miami-Dade County School Board, with the University of Miami, etc. So stay tuned. When we come back, we will continue this discussion with Anita.
Assalamu alaikum. Allah gives hikmat, wisdom, to whomsoever He wills. And whomsoever is given wisdom is certainly given a lot of good. Only the people of understanding will benefit from the reminder. Tune in to Alhikmat TV for khutbahs, lectures, and Islamic reminders. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
In the Quran, in chapter 5, verse 67, Allah tells the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ya ayyuhar Rasul, balligh ma unzila ilayka min rabbik, wa in lam taf'al, fama balagta risalatahu. Very deep. Allah tells the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to spread the message of the Quran. And he told the Prophet, and if you do not spread the message, you did not fulfill the mission of the messenger. So you and I are followers of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If we can afford one Quran, help us join in distributing the Quran. So if you can't afford one Quran, do it. $3. 10 Quran, $30. 100 Quran, $300.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Who is Who in America on Alhikmat TV 24/7 online. Once more, we are talking with Anita. And Anita, I gotta learn this because I need to give credit to the name. Mainbach, did I get it now?
Mainbach. It's
Mainbach.
close. Mainbach.
Mainbach. Interesting. Anita Mainbach. We had a wonderful conversation with her before we went on the short break. And I'm sure viewers out there would have benefited a lot from her teaching background, her educational background, and her career and profession in education. So, Anita, tell us a little bit of some of your awards. I see that you, U.S.A. Today, you received, you were honored as on the all-teacher team, and there was one that was very interesting. Honored by Miami-Dade Commission as a Woman of the Year in March 2002. And then you got the Miami-Dade County Teacher of the Year in 2003. I mean, these are great achievements in America. You know, it's not like some other country somewhere in the world, but in Miami, in America, you get an award in Miami-Dade, such a large population, so many teachers. And to get the County Teacher of the Year award, that is fantastic. So tell us a little bit about these awards. How did you get them? How it happened? Share this, because I want to repeat, it's all about motivating other people. Your education, your career will motivate other people to want to attain success by doing the good things that you did in the field of education.
I will say that never in my wildest dreams did I ever expect those kind of things to happen.
Wow.
I did what I did because I loved it, as I keep saying. And so they were gifts, and I was overwhelmed to receive them because I never, ever expected it. I will tell you about one of the awards, though.
Tell us.
That I started and how it came about, and one I'm most proud of having received after I started the award. When I was teaching at the University of Miami, one of the things besides the courses I taught is I would go into classrooms and I have students who were doing their student teaching. And so I would go into their classrooms, watch them teach, give them advice, that kind of a thing. And I walked in one of the classes, and there was a large picture on the wall of one of the students. And next to it, it was the word kindness. So it was the student of the week for kindness.
Right.
And for kindness, which I said, that's wonderful. So after the student had taught and we had our conversation together, I said, well, what things did that student do especially that student got the award for kindness? She said, I don't know. They just choose somebody for a kindness award. And I said, there's so much to kindness. You just, and then she did a story and with that same class. And it was about a mailman who was retiring, and he was going from house to house. And all the people in all the homes were rushing out to greet him, to say goodbye, to thank him, to give him gifts. So I said to her, in that book, you never mentioned why were those people coming out to that mailman and doing those things? Why did they love him so much? And we got to the idea, well, maybe he was kind, that maybe if it was raining, he brought the mail to their home. Whatever it was, that they wanted to show him that they cared, because he probably was a very kind, caring man. And so I said, okay, we need to have an award for kindness. And I know that kindness is its own reward. So I know that sounds kind of, but anyway, and it is. But there was a book called Maniac McGee, and it was by Jerry Spinelli, who's a very, very well-known children's book author. And in the book Maniac McGee, this child, Maniac McGee, they called him because he ran through the town like a maniac. He brought two sides of segregated parts of the town together in mutual kindness and friendship. So to honor what that character did, I thought that would be a perfect name for the award. So it was the Maniac McGee Award for a Legacy of Kindness. And it was the only award at the school that the students nominated somebody and had to give the reason why. And so we did that year after year. The first year, the winner was a cafeteria worker in her 70s. Back then I thought that was old. Not anymore anyway. And she was being awarded because she would not let a child leave there who was hungry. She made sure that children who didn't have their lunch had lunch. The second year, the principal of the school was awarded. And children were awarded too. And I got it. I got the award on the third year. And I think that one meant the most to me, that the students selected me for the Maniac McGee Award. Actually, I have it right behind me. You want to see it?
Yes, of course, of course, of course. We got to be real here, man. Let our viewers see it.
I don't know if you can read it.
Wow,
but it's the Maniac McGee Award for a legacy of kindness.
Isn't that so beautiful?
And what's wonderful about it is they've continued to do it year after year. And I remember one year, sadly, the counselor, I was no longer there, and they invited me to come back. And she subsequently died, but she was awarded the award, and they had me come back. But the students got it as well. And you don't have to be the best athlete. You don't have to be the best scholar, but you can be kind. You can always be kind.
Oh my goodness, what a beautiful award. It's not just about something, but just being kind. You know, your kindness led you to get in that award of kindness, and I think that is so very humble of you. You know, it reminds me of all these beautiful sayings. You know, there's a famous saying which says that when you're kind to people on earth, God is kind to you. And you developed that program, or that whatever it was, to guide people towards kindness, to encourage people to be kind. And I know the award is not the award, you know, just a plaque cannot give justice to your kindness. That's just a symbol. But when you encourage people to be kind, it's definite that God will be kind to you, and kind and merciful to you for what you do. I think that is so interesting nowadays. You know, Anita, and I mean, I should be saying Dr. Anita. I apologize for that. I know that you are so humble to it. I should be saying Dr. Anita, with all those degrees and achievement and your doctorate, etc. But a lot of teachers nowadays, in today's time, unfortunately, you know, you don't see kindness anymore. You see a lot of arrogance, you see haughtiness. But I'm sure that your students would have learned a lot from your personality, your kindness, your humbleness. That goes a long way. You know, the theory and the book knowledge is one thing, but the act of being loving and kind. When I was studying, Dr. Anita, and I have to say, Dr. Anita, forgive me for that, right? I mean, I know. Don't worry. We have to respect your status and your achievement. You know, when I was studying, I always remember this. I read a proverb, and I wish I had it still. I was about 17 years then. It says, a great teacher, and I hope I remember it, and you have caused me to reflect back when I was 17 years, and I can't remember how many years ago that was, right? You know, it says a great teacher is not that person who got a great amount of degrees and knowledge, but a great teacher is that person who motivates a lot of people to become great students. Isn't that interesting?
But it's so true.
Yeah, a great teacher is not...
I had that teacher in 6th grade who did that for me, who took this kid, the kids made fun of because I was short and kind of heavy, and he made me feel special.
Wow.
And I will never, ever forget him.
You see the point we're getting at? And, you know, we could talk about this with someone like you because you have that background. And I'm talking to you Dr. Anita, and it sent me right back to when I was 17 years, which you're talking approximately almost 45 years ago. I remember that saying, a great teacher is not someone with a great amount of degrees and diplomas, but a one who can make a great amount of students, motivate people to be students, motivate people to study, to want to learn. Sometimes you have a teacher and the subject that they teach, you hate the subject. And it's more or less because of the way the teacher teaches it. And then you have another teacher who teaches the same subject and you learn to love the subject. So it's like education. You learn to love to learn and to be educated. So there are teachers who motivate people to want to learn and want to gain a lot of education. And God Almighty has blessed you with that personality. When you mention about your kindness award that you motivated people to get, my God, that is so interesting. I've never really heard of someone telling me it's all about they insist on the knowledge, which is important. Don't miss my point, but just to encourage students to be kind, that is something that is lacking in society today. What do you think about that? On that point, what do you think about kindness and love and respect among teachers and students? What do you think about that today in comparison to the days when you were teaching?
It's funny, in the days when I was teaching, it never really came up at that point either, that I know of.
Wow.
When I was younger. I don't see it through the years being something that's really talked about or considered. Hopefully people treated each other with respect and kindness all along, but it was never anything that they did in a basis like the award that I felt needed to be done, because I felt that it wasn't being mentioned or talked about enough, that people didn't think about what they were doing sometimes, with how their words would hurt, how their actions would hurt, how they isolated other people, the bullying that went on. So I think I'm seeing a little bit more lately with anti-bullying than I saw when I was a kid. I don't know if you saw it differently, but many more programs being developed about anti-bullying and things like that. Those are becoming more, I see them more now than I saw them when I was growing up.
Well, is it because it's more in existence nowadays?
Yeah.
Or?
I think there was always bullying, but it seems to have reached a different degree.
Mm-hmm.
More hate, more animosity. Again, it's going to get us to the project, and hating people that they don't even know.
Right.
Too much of that, and just too. It's hard to express. But I was bullied as a kid when I first moved to Miami. I knew nobody. I came to Miami. It was April in the second grade. There was 1 month left of school. There were some kids in my neighborhood. I didn't know them. I go out to see if I could play with them, and they all said no. There wasn't room for me to play jump rope. There wasn't room for me to play catch ball with them, right? So my mom would keep saying, well, why don't you take an end in the jump rope? And maybe they'll, so I went to do that. And the next thing I remember is a girl was sitting on me. So we must have gotten into a fight, and I don't even remember it. But
Wow.
I do remember the feeling of isolation that I felt when I came to Miami. It still gets me choked up. And I was 8 years old, and it still affected me to this day. And I think things like that happen to you in your life also do it. But it was a different kind of bullying. But kids don't realize the harm that they do when they name call, that it stays with the person forever. And it seems to be getting more intense here of late. Maybe there's more publicity, I don't know, but it just seems to me that there's just so much of it.
Yeah.
And we are all human beings. And I was brought up in a family, and I hate to say this, it didn't matter. not now I say it doesn't matter what color a person was. It didn't matter what religion the person was. What mattered was who that person was inside. And that's how I was always brought up. And I just don't see that happening today. I see people being isolated for their color, for their religion, for their culture, or the language that they speak or don't speak. And I see just more and more. I don't know if it's the media focusing more on it. And if it is, it's good that they're focusing on it, but terrible that it's happening so much.
You are so right. You are so right, because unfortunately, I'm sure the respect and the love that teachers and students had among themselves in those days, you know, it's a whole different kettle of fish nowadays. It's a whole different kettle of fish. And you made a good point. It's a lot of hate. It's a lot of malice, a lot of prejudice nowadays. It's very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. But anyhow, we have been talking for another 15 minutes. 15 minutes, have gone in this second segment. So when we come back after the short break, we're going to get into your present project. I wanted to leave that for last, because that's the whole thing. And I can now understand, we have spoken a couple times, but now, after listening to your awards and your kindness award and your educational background, and your teaching profession, now I sort of understand a little more, or even better, as to why you are so excited about this project of building bridges among children and people of different cultures and different faiths, etc. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little more about that, why you came up with that idea, what it is all about. We want our viewers to know. We want our worldwide viewers to know what you're doing and what you plan to get achieved and what you have done already on this Building Bridges project among children. So for our viewers out there, stay tuned. When we come back, we will continue this discussion with Dr. Anita, who, as we have said before and many times, I think she's a very chosen person by God, especially when she spoke about her kindness and her teaching career and the love and affection she had with students, teachers, etc. in her profession and career. So stay tuned. We got a very important topic to discuss with her when we come back. Inshallah, God willing.
Assalamu alaikum. Allah gives hikmat, wisdom, to whomsoever He wills. And whomsoever is given wisdom is certainly given a lot of good. Only the people of understanding will benefit from the reminder. Tune in to alhikmattv for khutbahs, lectures, and Islamic reminders. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
In the Quran, in chapter 5, verse 67, Allah tells the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ya ayyuhar Rasul, balligh ma unzila ilayka min rabbik, wa illam taf'al, fama balagta risalatahu. Very deep. Allah tells the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to spread the message of the Quran. And he told the Prophet, and if you do not spread the message, you did not fulfill the mission of the messenger. So you and I are followers of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If we can afford one Quran, help us join in distributing the Quran. So if you can't afford one Quran, do it. $3. 10 Quran, $30. 100 Quran, $300.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Who is Who in America on Alhikmat TV 24/7 online. For those of you who have just tuned in, we have been talking to Dr. Anita, a person with a wonderful educational background, not just book knowledge, but someone who, emphasized a lot on love and kindness and affection in her teaching career. So welcome back to the show, Dr. Anita.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Glad to be back.
Yes, it is a pleasure. It is a pleasure. And I feel very privileged to get in this conversation with you. So as I was mentioning, You know, I know the reason why tears would come to your eyes when we discuss about your kindness and your background. It's because you did what you did from your heart. And when you reflect back to that, it must bring tears to your eyes because it happened for real. It was not fake. You know, nowadays we're all about a lot of fake things, fake, fake, fake. But God blessed you, and again, God bless us that we are on this show talking about your new project. So tell us a little bit about how you came up with this project of building bridges, which is an outreach program with children of different religion, different ethnic background, etc.
Well, building bridges was kind of like the perfect storm, how it came to me. It didn't come all at once, but when it did, it all came together. So I'll take you back a few years. While I was still working at the University of Miami, I was asked to work on a project to help teachers in the Jewish day schools teach more about Judaism to their students. A lot of them weren't Jewish and didn't really have the background. And I didn't know what I was going to do at that point. What was I going to do? What was I going to teach them? And so I was at a conference, and because I love children's literature, as I mentioned before, there was a young woman there, and she had like 6 or 7 young children. And I was telling her about a book called The Rainbow Fish that I had just recently read with my grandson, who was about 5 or 6 at the time. And it's a book about a fish covered in beautiful, beautiful scales, but he's very haughty. And none of the other fish liked him. And one of the other older fish said, well, maybe if you were a little nicer and shared, they would like you better. So the rainbow fish decided to share. And at the end of the book is a picture of the rainbow fish and all the other fish swimming together happily and getting along. So I told this to this young girl, and she goes, what? What kind of book is that? She says, and I go, what do you mean? It's about sharing. And then all of a sudden, it hit me. And I was embarrassed that it took that long to hit me. But that book was about, you don't give up who you are. You have to keep what is the core of you. And you can't change to please other people. You have to be the best you can be, period.
Truly.
And this fish gave up essentially who he was to be accepted. So I said, okay, I'm going to take these wonderful books that have wonderful values, and in this case, they're Jewish values, but we all know they're not Jewish values, they are universal values. Again, kindness, respect, all the things that are what constitutes all of our religions.
Of
That's
course.
essential to all of us. And so I took all of these wonderful children's books and created lesson plans, brought in music and art and things like that, teaching this book and the universal values that they taught. So that was the first thing that happened, okay? And that's important to it because of what I did with building bridges. Then the second, third, and fourth things that happened is we had between 2018, 2019, we had the Tree of Life synagogue killings.
Yeah.
We had 2 mosques in New Zealand in 2019, and people were killed. Then we had also the neo-Nazi, did I say the neo-Nazi demonstrations in Charlottesville in 2018. And I remember watching it and hearing people yell and scream hatred. And I said, I bet they don't even know any of the people that they hate. They probably never met a Black person in their life. They certainly never met a Jewish person in their life, or maybe a Muslim or whatever. If they didn't look like they looked or go to the same church or wherever they went to pray, they were marching in hate. So that was the second thing. And then what topped it all off were the words of Martin Luther King. It just came back to me like I don't know how it all happened, but all of a sudden it came to me. I didn't have it perfectly at the time, but I had the general gist of it. And the quote is that men hate because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. They don't know each other because they can't communicate with each other, and they can't communicate with each other because they're separated. And that was it. And I said, we have to find a way to bring people together from different diverse backgrounds who would never have had the opportunity to meet each other. And we have to start with the children. Because I think, there's a book from a song from South Pacific. You've got to be taught to hate and fear. People, do you know that song? People whose eyes are different shade, whatever. And you've got to be taught before it's too late, before you are 6 or 7 or 8, to hate all the people your relatives hate. You have to be carefully taught. So all that came together in the mixture. And I said, look, we have the technology to do this.
Yeah.
We have Zoom technology. Now, this is before the pandemic, but we have Zoom technology. We can bring kids together. They can talk with each other through Zoom in their own classes. And why not have them start talking about children's books? Teachers use literature in their classes. The teachers can determine together, the teachers who are paired, what books they would like to do. The students can talk among themselves in their own classes, but once every couple of weeks, they could meet with this other population of students and discuss the book, connect it to their own lives, their own realities, their own hopes and dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we did. And I started off 2018, 2019, before the pandemic, a year and a half before the pandemic. I started off with a Muslim school in Sunrise, Florida, a Catholic school in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and a Jewish day school in Boca Raton, Florida. And we started with 5th grade classes in each of these schools. And the teachers met to discuss when they wanted to meet, what book they were going to use. So now they used a book that came with their own, that went along well with their own curriculum. So it wasn't one extra thing that they had to do. It didn't cost anything because they were reading these books anyway. And they decided they would meet once every 2 weeks for 45 minutes. And they started the sessions off with things like boundary breaking. It's just a strategy where you just ask questions like, what's the most beautiful sound you've ever heard? Or if you could go back in time, who is one person you'd like to meet? And each child, they would get the question, and each child in the room would give their answer in both sides. And then at the end of doing a few questions, they would talk about things like, who's one person in the class you'd like to ask another question to? Or who sounded the most like you? Those kind of things, to get to know and get familiar with each other. So we did that the first time, and then every time we met, they did that for 5, 10, 15, about 10 minutes actually before they discussed the book.
Right.
And little by little, as they discussed the books of literature and made connections to their own lives, they started realizing how much they had in common. And it was really wonderful, the results, and I will share the results with you in a minute. But it was very interesting to see how comfortable they were. And oftentimes, like one person would say, it's our holiday this week, we are celebrating. Mm-hmm. And they would talk about the religion they were celebrating. And then the other school would say, we have religion, and we do certain things like that. There were similarities. Or we have a holiday, you have Christmas, we have Hanukkah. And they would see a lot of the different similarities at times. And then they got so comfortable that one of the times, the students in the Muslim school, one of the times I was at Adana Klein Jewish Academy, I went there and watched in person. And they asked the students, do you ever feel uncomfortable wearing the hijab? Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yes, totally correct.
What?
I said totally correct.
Okay. And they asked the boys, because the boys wore a head covering very similar to the head coverings that they wore in synagogue.
Yeah, the kippah.
And so, kippah. And the girls said, some of them said, sometimes when we go into a store, we feel like people are looking at us and we get uncomfortable, which says a lot. It made me feel very badly, but it was very honest. Mm-hmm. And the boys said, no, it doesn't bother us at all. But they felt comfortable enough that not only, they had birthdays, they celebrated, and little by little, in even a semester, it made a huge difference. So I started a pilot study with them, and it was going to be a formal study done with the University of Miami, which we never got to fruition because of the pandemic.
Right.
But I did give an informal survey. And I'm just going to read this if it's okay
Yes, but
with you. Okay.
before you get on that,
Yeah.
I must mention a very interesting point in this whole project that you have. I love that vision that you have, which is called a culture of kindness. It brings me back to what we were talking before. I mean, it's so interesting that you brought up you have that terminology, or you have used those words, a culture of kindness. That includes everybody in humanity. It doesn't matter what religion or what faith, whoever you may be, wherever you may be, a culture of kindness. I mean, that includes even the dogs and the cats and the animals.
Yes, of course.
Isn't that so wonderful? I love that. That's why I told you, Dr. Anita, I am very happy that you have discussed this with me, and I consider it an opportunity to work with you in this project. This is a phenomenal project that is very important and mostly needed in today's time in the world. So continue what you were going to say.
Well, I have to tell you this one thing. When I got off the phone talking with you the first time, I was jumping.
Why?
Because you got it. So many people, I tell them in their eyes, like, oh. And you said basically what you said, and I felt so validated in a way that I'm not alone in this, because sometimes it's very isolating when you do something, you build something kind of by yourself, and needed people like you, because without you and a few others that I've met now along the way, I knew I'm on the right track. I know this is important, but it was so wonderful of you to share your thoughts and feel the way that you did.
Thank you.
So
thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I mean that. So anyway, so basically I'm going to keep this very, very short. So
Yes.
we gave, and then the teachers mailed this back because now we're in pandemic.
Yeah.
So I just asked 2 questions. I asked them to respond to the prompt. When I began building bridges, I never imagined I would, and something that they got from it. And this is what one student said. At the end of the first year, when I began working on building bridges, I never imagined that I would be making new friends from a different school and religion. I never imagined it because I've been at my school for so long, I can't imagine making friends with a school I was unfamiliar with. And then she followed this with her takeaway. She wrote, I learned a lot, but one thing I learned was that just because we are different in some ways doesn't mean we can't be friends.
Wow. That is deep. That is very deep.
And I'll tell you one more. One student at the beginning said, why would we want to meet them? They hate us.
Mm-hmm.
And then she said, they don't hate us. And now we're friends.
Wow. I can see this project joining hearts together, bringing hearts together. And
Yeah.
that is where we need to start with its children, who are the leaders of tomorrow. They are the future politicians and teachers and professors. And I think this project will bring hearts together, join hearts together. And when they become the future leaders of tomorrow, they will be able to establish that culture of kindness. What do you think?
I hope you're right. It's going to take a lot of people like you spreading the word and having your schools, organizations do it. And it's a very easy process, and people don't realize it. First of all, it has to be ongoing. A study was done in Israel with students from Israel and all of a sudden my mind went. Anyway, it wasn't done long enough. It was done with Palestinians, and it wasn't done long enough. But in the short term, it was working. But it needs to be done over time.
It needs
So you
to.
can't just do it once and say, we're done. So it is a commitment, but it's a commitment, like I said before, it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't take any extra time for planning. And the differences are just overwhelming to me.
I think
And
so.
So what I'm doing now, so to give you a little idea of where I am now,
Okay.
I with the help of another co-author, we created a guide to building bridges,
Mm-hmm.
and it tells there are 10 basic steps, very simple, how to set up the classroom so the students can hear each other, how to do building bridges,
Mm-hmm.
how to get kids to have conversations so it's not question and answer, you know, so that
Yes.
it's very meaningful. All that is done. We are going to have a website. I just finished a grant and submitted it, but no matter what, we'll have a website. And on the website, people will be able to go on, put their names in and their school. So it won't be any personal information, what grade level. And each school will have a contact. So people could go onto the website, go to that page, find people who want to partner, and they can also put their names to be a partner, call the school, get a hold of the contact person who's been established, and they'll pair the teachers. The teachers can meet together through Zoom, through TV, whatever. They could be on the other side of the world for all we know.
Yes.
And they can get to know each other, feel comfortable, and then start building bridges. So it's a very easy process. The website will be there. It's going to happen. I'm waiting for the grant, and if that doesn't, I will find a way to make it happen anyway. And it'll be easy. It's so easy, and it just needs people like you saying, you know what, let's try it. And the kids, and the principal or the teacher of one of the schools wrote to me. She said, all of them want to be in the 5th grade now. They can't wait because they want to be part of the program.
Yes, of course.
And I got wonderful responses from the principal saying about the critical thinking that their kids were doing as a result and how meaningful it was. And that was only with each class doing it. One class I did it for a year and the other for half a year, and then the pandemic hit. And it was hard enough for them to do Zooming with what they had to do. So.
As I said, Dr. Anita, you know, when we were talking in the second segment, when you are kind and merciful to people on earth, God is kind to you, and God will be kind to you. And if we can establish this as you have established and get it going, well, I mean, you have already established it, but let me use the better words. If we can be consistent in making this happen and get this culture of kindness established throughout the world, believe me, God's mercy and kindness will be upon you. And I want to get some of that blessing and some of that kindness and mercy from God, because if we can establish that amongst more people in the world and more children, because, you know, unfortunately, sorry to bring this up, but if you look at politicians, you know, they got all the education, the position, the status, but a lot of them are not kind to each other. They're not kind. They don't even know how to speak kindly, softly and lovingly to other people. But if in their education and their upbringing as kids, somewhere down the line when they become a president and a politician and a congressman and a senator and a minister, then they could reflect on what was kindness and what is kindness. And we hope and pray that they will be able to live that in the positions that they are in. And that is so important for the world. And that is what is called education. And it will be spiritual guidance. Listen, God will guide it as long as we make the efforts. I wish you all the best. I pray that God bless you and this project. And thank you for inviting me to be part of this project with you. And whatever Alhikmat TV and we can do from Alhikmat, please let us know how we can promote it, make it more known throughout the world, you know what I'm saying, so that we can all share in the blessings. So you have my full support. I know we're out of time, so you tell me in the last couple of seconds before we close, what do you have to say again?
Well, I want to say, first of all, you can share this with people. I will be happy to have them contact me. I will give them the guide. They can start now. They can reach out to another school. It can be a local school. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
It's kids are kids are kids, and just different areas of diversity. Okay, so we can start now, but as soon as the website's done, I will let you know. And then I'm full speed ahead. Again, knowing you, and I hope I have the opportunity to meet you in person and to work with you, because you are just an amazing person. Like you said, if just people could be like you are, and and see beyond things that don't matter and into the heart of people and be kind and good. What a world we can create. Can you imagine a world without killing, without hate, without looking over your shoulder and worrying what people are thinking or doing, and just concentrate on being good and doing all the good you can when you can. And that's what you're sharing with your groups of people that you're working with, and how lucky they are to have you as their leader.
Thank you very much. You bring things out of me. You know, when you have a quality in you, it reflects, and you see that quality in other people. So I want to throw what you said on me back on you, because you're a nice, kind, merciful, loving person with other people. You see kindness and love and mercy from me. So it's all about how you think and that kind heart that you got. You look at kindness from everybody. But I thank you very much for that, those kind words, and may God continue to bless you. It's really a pleasure again, and we will get a lot of things working on together. All right?
God willing.
God willing. And in Arabic we say inshallah, God willing.
Inshallah, God willing.
Inshallah, God willing. So for our viewers out there, it has really been a pleasure, and I will say a blessing, and I will have to say a mercy from God that we had Dr. Anita on our show today. We have discussed a lot of things about education, her profession, her background, her career, and most of all, her project with building bridges among children throughout the world, a culture of kindness. So may God bless her. May God bless you all. May God bless us all for being on the show, for being viewers, hosts, and part of the program. I'm really, enlightened after this conversation and this dream of this project that Dr. Anita has. So always stay tuned to Alhikmat TV 24/7 online. Until then, thank you very much, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.